He said he was always a very inquisitive young boy, and he would always ask, why doesn't he see any black people in the Bible? And he said, the Bible, because that was the only book in his house. And he was told that there are no black people in heaven, these are angels in the Bible. He said, okay. He said he would ask about the history of his people. He was told, the people don't have any history. They just sprouted up on the plantation and that was the end of it. But he was a guy that would not take that for an answer, so he did his own research. And he took that situation as a challenge to him, because he understood by the measure of white sociologists, with his background, he wasn't supposed to make it. And he was determined he was going to make it. And he did. He made a search for the history of his people, and he did it the hard way, because in the small town that he lived in, he couldn't take books out of the library, so he had to sit there and read them. However, toward the end of his career, he would say, and I quote, "Although I was raised in a home where the only book was the Bible, I have read more books than most men have seen in their lifetime." And the 40,000 books in his private collection attest to that. As an example of the magnificent mind he developed, he would often, during his 90 miles an hour dictation, say, "I want to quote from so-and-so's book. It's in the Pan-African section. It's the 5th book on the shelf, and it's the 4th shelf in, and it's a gray book, and the printing is green. And on page 42, the last paragraph reads, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da." I go, all right, Pan-African system. I'll go there. I'll 4th, 5th. I'm not holding him. It was exactly where he said. You open the gray book, the dust is falling off of it, so you know he didn't read it yesterday. And you get to page 42, and the paragraph reads. And that's the kind of mind he developed. And by using that gift, and by applying himself through self-discipline and self-determination and serious study and extensive research, he learned the truth about his people and their history. And fortunately, during the time I worked with him, we were producing great historians. His contemporaries were Dr. Ben, Chekantadia, Jacob Carruthers, you name it, Ben Sertima. These were his contemporaries. And during the time I worked for him, because of the way he was regarded, their books and articles and research material, they'd send it to him for his input and his evaluation. So I was privy to not only being exposed to his ideas, but the ideas of many of the wonderful men that we put on this earth. Collectively, their message was how we could save ourselves on this world. And if we can save ourselves, we in turn will help save the world. And they showed us how. Their argument goes that Africans represent 89% of the world population. That means we cannot be a minority anywhere. people that aren't even recognized as Africans had to be Africans, because Cheikh Diop tells us that nature does not duplicate itself. When this earth was ready to host man sprouted in Southeast Africa. And if the Africans didn't leave the continent and populate the entire world, the world would be desolate. And that's a quote. Their collective message to us is to unite. And if we unite the world over, we will not only save ourselves, we will save the world. And they told us how to do it, and step by step. He says, this is something we can easily do, because in the great drama of history, Africans have been creators, initiators, innovators, and if we once operated on that level, we must not rule ourselves out, even when the whole world is ruling us out. And he said, sadly, because we do not know our history. We do not know that we came from powerful people. We have yet to realize the power that's within us. And now is the time to recognize and appreciate that part of us that is a reflection of the ancient genius that lies dormant within us. Now is the time to come together as one people. And if we come together as one people, we will number more than 1 billion people. And following the example of our ancestors, we will stand and be ready to say, Lord, if we stood at a time in history and without anyone's help gave the world the knowledge of fire, the wheel, the art of traveling on water, books to catch fish, tool making, the hammer, the stone axe, bows and arrows, mining, farming, cultivation of crops, domestication of animals, which is a lost art because we have not been able to domesticate a single animal since. The establishment of moral laws that made man human, the formulation of laws that made society civil, the spoken word, the written word, the alphabet, the names of things, and the very concept, the idea of God. That's our contribution. And it goes on and on and on. It's time for us to say, Lord, if we did that once, with the state the world is in, it is time to stand at the gates again and remind the Lord that the world is in a terrible state. And the job we did to make the world a good place to live needs to be done again. Here we are, Lord. Send us. We did it once. We can do it.